And last week, for those of you who joined us, we studied the story of Prahlada Maharaj. So for those of you who were here, I would like to ask if you can maybe unmute your mic and tell me what lessons you might remember from last week, or what lessons you might have thought of for Prahlada Maharaj, for the story of Prahlada Maharaj. So don't be shy, please. Anybody can unmute themselves one at a time and say what they might remember. Yes, so Prahlada Maharaj displayed quite a lot of tolerance. Of course, उनकी tolerance और हमारी tolerance में बहुत अंतर है, because he is being attacked by his own father, and he is being attacked in such a way that they are looking for his death. And in today's world, we cannot even tolerate our neighbor, our neighbor for throwing some trash outside, or committing any little small mistake, parking their car in the wrong way. We don't tolerate these very, very simple things. So Prahlada Maharaj is displaying immense amounts of tolerance. And our acharyas very much glorify this, that one should be very tolerant if one wants to progress in the spiritual life. Very good, nice.
Anyone?
All right, so one should have forgiveness. And even to one's, what we say, enemies, or we can say perceived enemies. Even those whom we may think in a material concept that they are our enemy, that they are not our friend, wo hamare shatru hain. So even those we should be very forgiving, because Prahlada Maharaj ji is showing that with his own actions also. For example, we can see that when Lord Narsimhadeva appears and asks Prahlad that please let me give you one boon. So what does Prahlada Maharaj say first? That I don't want any boon. Please give me the boon that I may never want any boons. And then finally, upon Narsimhadev pushing him that please take one boon, then he says, please forgive my father. Please forgive my father. Imagine someone is coming to kill you. Someone is trying over and over again against your complete principles. And then at the end, you ask for forgiveness for him. That is a wonderful quality of Prahlada Maharaj. Yes, great. There was someone else also that wanted to say something? Promises in Bhagavad Gita also. Lord protects his devotees. Yes, so one must remain three things. One has to have three things according to Srila Rupa Goswami. Utsaha nischayat dharyat. That one must maintain enthusiasm in spiritual life, right? And then nischayat, firm faith, have firm vishwas that the Lord has made this promise in Bhagavad Gita and he will fulfill it. And dharyat, that one should be also patient. That just like Prahlada Maharaj tolerated so many difficulties, and Arjun and the Pandavas tolerated so many difficulties, it is not like with the snap of a finger, the Lord comes and appears and fixes everything. No, he's showing the glory of his devotees through these pastimes, that they are patient also, that they are patient. And they await for whenever the Lord wants to show his mercy. And in fact, in the Prahlada Maharaj story, we also learned that Prahlada Maharaj first said to Lord Narsimhadev that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you taking so much trouble to come here to save me. You didn't need to take this trouble. I have 100% faith on you. So this is the mood of the devotee and the relationship of the devotee and the Lord. Very nice.
Anything else?
Unwavering faith. Okay, so give me an example how Prahlada Maharaj showed that. Can you hear me? Hare Krishna. Can you hear me? Okay, so give me the example of how Prahlad Maharaj displayed this unwavering faith. I think you're on mute, or if you can't hear me, then I will. Okay, so unwavering faith. So Prahlad Maharaj displays this unwavering faith throughout his childhood because despite, again, going through so many troubles, he maintained his commitment to and his dedication to Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu. And also, if we look at it in a very different way, that his own father attacked him for his own views, right? His own father said, no, he is not the Supreme Lord. I am the Supreme Lord. You should worship me. And he said, you are crazy. You are this and that. And he insulted him left and right. But still, Prahlad Maharaj, knowing all the knowledge of scriptures provided by his guru, then he maintains his dhrita, his faith and his determination to that Lord Krishna, Lord Narayan, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So many times in our own life, we get criticized by others, right? We get criticized by our own family members many times and by our own friends that, what have you gotten yourself into? And ये सब scam है, ये सब मन को खराब करने की चीज़ है, ये सब और चीज़ें बताते हैं. But one who is a high-class devotee, he maintains unwavering faith in the face of obstacles. Okay, wonderful. Very beautiful point. And it goes along with all of these things, tolerance and forgiveness. That just because you are a devotee does not allow you to transcend the laws of proper duty, proper etiquette, and proper respect. And just like Didi gave an example here, that Prahlad Maharaj, despite his father doing so many things, he still respected him as a father. And he even bowed down to his feet upon returning from school. He also bowed down to his feet when he threw him off the lap of himself. So many different things were there. And he's always providing respect. Even Prahlad Maharaj gives proper respect to his gurus that are Sanda and Amarka, even though they are teaching the wrong things, but due to the relationship of a teacher and student, he's giving proper respect. So being a devotee, if we apply this in our regular life, that being a devotee does not give you the right to disrespect others. In fact, our acharyas say, Trinadapi sunichena, tarorapi shahishnuna, amanina manadena. That means one should not desire respect from others and instead give respect to all. Kirtaniya sadahari. In this way, one can chant the names of the Lord. So giving respect to others is absolutely critical. And one should not go and criticize, because by criticizing, ultimately, this leads to our own downfall. Very nice point. Okay, anything else? Fearless, yes. Okay, so fearless. Fearless. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Neha Vikrama Nashasti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpam apyasa dharmasya trayate mahatto bhayat. That by starting this spiritual path, by going on this spiritual path of bhakti yoga, then what does one gain? One gains fearlessness. Trayate mahatto bhayat. That he maintains fearlessness in the biggest fear. And what is the biggest fear? That is the fear of death. The fear of death. So one who is knowledgeable, one who understands Bhagavad Gita, one who understands these stories of these devotees, then he no longer fears the thing that everyone fears, which is death. Absolutely. Anything else? You guys are doing a great job. Absolutely. So, very nice point, Didi, that one should start now. That Prahlad Maharaj says, Kaumaram acharat pragyo. That from a very young age one should start, because there is no guarantee on life. There is no guarantee on life. today I may be alive, tomorrow I may not be. So instead of wasting time hoping that, oh, in my old age, when I'm finished with my work, raising my family, marrying kids, getting money, so many things, that when I'm retired, then I'll have time to go on parikarmas, tirthyatras, and do chanting, and I'll be nice and comfortable. But ye kabhi aayega nahi. Ye kabhi bhi nahi aayega. Kyunki there is no chance in this material world that you will have a perfect situation. If you wait for the perfect situation, it will never come. Just look at the examples of Prahlada Maharaj, Pandavas, etc. Did they wait for their nice kingdom? Did the Pandavas wait till the war was finished? Did Prahlada Maharaj wait till his father was finished? No, he was chanting from immediately from a young age. Wonderful. Okay, anything else? You guys are very smart. You guys are all scholars. मैं क्यों पढ़ा रहा हूँ? मेरे को समझ ही नहीं आ रहा. मेरे को आपका ही कथा सुनना चाहिए. और बताइए. Anything else? Okay, so now that you all have said these nice 7 different things, tolerance, forgiveness, the Lord protects his devotees always, unwavering faith, one should have proper respect and execute the duties, then fearlessness should come in one's heart, and we start immediately. Then we should learn also what the acharyas have to say. And your 7 points actually are all very true. And our acharyas have mentioned all of these things. So let's try to cover all the things that maybe we might have missed. So first is that one should never criticize. One should never criticize, and don't hate others, especially the devotees. And I believe you all have learned this from Rahul Prabhu, that Vaishnav aparad, right? What is Vaishnav aparad? Offending the devotee of Krishna. That Vaishnav aparad can lead to the destruction of our bhakti. Just like, for example, if our bhakti is compared to a plant or a creeper or a nice vine of plants, right? Then as that plant is growing, there's so many things that can come in the way. For example, some weeds may come, or some thunderstorm may come, some tsunami may come and destroy everything, right? And also maybe जो घास काटने वाले हैं वो भी आ सकते हैं. बहुत सारे कुछ हो सकता है उस प्लांट के लिए. तो जो घास काटने वाला है ना, उसको काट देता है तो वो पूरा खत्म हो जाता है. उस तरह से वैष्णव अपराध जब हम करते हैं, इसका मतलब हमारा जो भक्ति का लता है, जो हमारा भक्ति का प्लांट है, वो नाश होता है. वो इट्स फिनिश्ड, इट्स कंप्लीटली फिनिश्ड. So we should be very careful. Even though Hiranyakashipu was so knowledgeable, he knew all of the scriptures, he studied all of the Vedic scriptures, he repeated all these instructions to his mother, to his brother's wife and kids, but still he himself, because of his inability to stop harassing and criticizing the devotees, he became completely finished. So one should avoid this. The second thing is that be a drilling machine. Be a drilling machine. Now, why did we write this? That why should one be a drilling machine? कि हम लोग कई बार बात करते हैं लेकिन हम काम नहीं करते. So you all mentioned that one should execute the duty, right? And Prahlada Maharaj is displaying that. He's not simply talking, he's not simply waiting, thinking, he's actually chanting the names constantly of the Lord, right? He's always remembering Krishna and he's actually doing the work. Krishna says that even I do work in Bhagavad Gita, because if I didn't do work, then all would be lazy and not follow me. So we must do the work, and we must be like a drilling machine. जैसे हम कुछ छेद कर रहे हैं, then we have to get a drill and we just completely keep drilling that machine. As long as it's plugged in, it keeps running. So similarly, as long as we are alive in this body, then we should do the work. What work? We should execute the 9 limbs of bhakti that Prahlada Maharaj described. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. That if we want to progress on the spiritual life, then we must perform some activity. Because bhakti is loving, devotional service. Right? But this is the definition of bhakti. So it is not just loving in the heart, It is not just being dedicated, but it is also doing some activity. Some activity. We must show our love. We must show our devotion by doing the work. And when we are a drilling machine, when we are doing our work, then we must also remember that we should drill at the same spot. We should drill at the same spot. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose. And their aim is one. Aim is one, right? O beloved child of the Kurus, O Arjun, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So one who is a devotee must be one-pointed. One-pointed. That idhar jane se, udhar jane se, बार बार इधर ये सोच वो सोच, ये करने से ये पूजा करना है, ये करना है, वो करना है, इससे कुछ लाभ नहीं होगा. इससे कुछ लाभ नहीं होगा. हमको जैसे प्रहलाद महाराज जी हमेशा भगवान के नाम करते थे, स्मरण करते थे. He is always fixed on Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu. So one must remain one-pointed if they want success. And we see this even in the material world. For example, many of you may be attending college or going to college or finish their college. Now, when we go to college, do we go and sign up for 5 or 10 degrees? मेरे को business भी करना है, engineering भी करना है, doctor भी बनना है, ये करना है, वो करना है. No. We pick one and we execute on that path. And if we tried to pick so many different degrees, we would fail in all of them. We would become a master of none. It's better to become a master of one and understand what is that one path that Krishna lays out in the Bhagavad Gita. That is the path of Bhakti Yoga. He says this is the topmost. So why drill at the same spot? So imagine if we have a drill and we dig a hole, right? We dig a hole in the ground and we dig that hole for 1 foot. Or I guess in India we can say 1 meter. 1 meter, right? And the next person drills a hole for another 1 meter. And the next person 1 meter. Next person 1 meter. Next person 1 meter. In this way, will they make any progress? No. But if they focus on one spot, the same spot, and each one drills 1 meter, then they get 100 meters, right? If 100 people are drilling 1 meter each, then it hits 100 meters. And then finally you can get to water and get the goal. Or if you're drilling for oil or whatever. The point is that by going into so many different paths and thinking that, oh, if I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, then I'll make any progress. But instead, Krishna says, no, focus on one place and keep diving deep in that spot. Then we talked about this, that be humble. Prahlada Maharaja displays humility. And that our acharyas use 2 examples. One is that we should be like a blade of grass. And another one is that we should be tolerant like a tree. So why a blade of grass? So when we see a blade of grass, then what happens to it? Somebody comes and they stomp on it, right? They stomp on the grass. And the grass just bends and after some time lifts right back up. So similarly, when one is humble like a blade of grass, then he does not take any offense from anyone else. He learns to tolerate the pains and sufferings from his previous karma. And then he goes back and continues on with his duty. So in the nature of a grass, the nature of a grass is to be very humble. Now, our acharyas also use the example of being tolerant like a tree. And why is a tree tolerant? Because the tree is always giving, always giving. In what ways the tree gives? The tree gives shade. The tree gives fruits, right? The tree gives leaves and branches and so many other. And even the tree, if you chop it down for wood, then it's ready to give that too. So even though someone wants to kill the tree for use of the entire body, the tree remains silent and does not complain. So one should be very tolerant like a tree, because in our lifetime, like Prahlada Maharaj, so many people may come and attack us, and so many people may criticize us. But if we remain tolerant, then ultimately we will be victorious. Then you all mentioned that we should be fearless. We should be fearless. And we're taking some references of Bhagavad Gita here. That Krishna says, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantaras prapte dhiras tatra namuyati. That one should not lament over the changing of the body, because we have done this over and over again. And also, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. And you all mentioned this too, that the Lord protects his devotees, because he promises here that my devotee never perishes, never perishes. So our acharyas say that one should not fear death. The only thing one should fear is wasting of time, wasting of time. And you all mentioned this also, that one should start now, because time is the only gift that we have in this life. And none of us know when that clock is going to finish. It could be finished tomorrow, it could be finished in 10 years, it could be finished in 50 years. But one day the clock will finish. So instead of thinking of life as being long and I'm just young and everything can be, I can do all things later, that one should be very fearful of wasting time and utilize time properly. The other thing is that one should be a servant, have a servant mentality. And by having a servant mentality, one automatically gives the results and credit to Guru and the Lord. And the example is given that it's easier to be a servant than to be a master. Why is this? So in our material life, all of us are striving to become a master. We want to be the boss. We want to be a big head honcho and head of everything. We want to be the leader, and everyone should serve us. But in the spiritual world, everything is reflected oppositely. So the glory is not in being a master. The glory is being the servant. And even Krishna himself is a servant, though he is the Supreme Lord. And who is he the servant of? He is the servant of his devotee. That's where he gets the most pleasure. And he's showing by his own example how by service one can become more happy. And our acharyas use a very nice example that, let's say you are a maid. You're a maid servant in someone's house. अब तुम ऐसे काम करते हो, बर्तन धोना, पोछा करना, ये सफाई करना, बेड को ठीक करना, कपड़े धोना, ये सब काम करते हो किसी दूसरे घर में. Now, is the servant worried about the master, or is the master worried about the servant? Does the servant wonder, oh, how is my master's business going? How is my master's health? How is my master's this, that? No. They have no worry. वो अपना काम करके बस उनका यही काम है. They don't worry about the master. But a good master, one who cares for his employees or one who cares for his servants, then he is always thinking about his servants. That उनका देखभाल करना. Similarly, when we become the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, it's actually easier for us, because then we leave everything to Krishna. That Krishna, you take care of everything. My job is to serve you. My job is to surrender to you. The rest, you handle. Whatever way you want to handle, I'm very happy in that way. So Prahlada Maharaj shows that by being the servant of the Lord, then even Hiranyakashipu, his great father with so many siddhis and powers, that he cannot get in his way. Then we also discussed that having firm faith in the Lord ultimately results in success. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, but ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. So for the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So if one has doubt, actually they'll never be happy. Chahe aap kuch bhi kaam karo, chahe aap, when you go to college, right? You have faith that once I complete this college or get my degree, this will help me in my entire life, right? You have to have faith. Otherwise, why would you do it? And if you doubt that, then no matter what you do, if you say college is a waste of time, school is a waste of time, I can learn everything on YouTube, whatever you might think, right? Then you will never achieve any success in that regard. So similarly, by having firm faith like Prahlada Maharaj in the scriptures, in the words of Krishna, then you can ultimately achieve happiness. And then of course you all mentioned start now, that Prahlada Maharaj says start at a young age. Our acharyas also glorify that Prahlada Maharaj is chanting the name constantly. And the names of the Lord are very, very powerful. Krishna has invested all of his potency in his name, all of his power in his name. नाम और नामी में कोई अंतर नहीं है. हरि से बड़ा हरि का नाम, प्रभु से बड़ा प्रभु का नाम. So if we focus on chanting the names, kirtanam, that this limb of bhakti that Prahlada Maharaj is saying is the most powerful in the age of Kali. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranyatha. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Machchita Madgata Prana, Bhodayantas Parasparam, Kathayantas Chamam Nityam, Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. That what does my devotee do? He's always engaged in talking about me, in singing my glories, right? This is the nature of a devotee. So when we chant the names of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then this will automatically cleanse the heart, automatically purify everything, and bring us all auspiciousness. And as Prahlada Maharaj said, you all mentioned this too, that one should have a clean and pure heart, even towards the enemy. So you all mentioned this very nicely. And then the last instruction is that don't be a businessman. Don't be a businessman with the Lord. Prahlada Maharaj says to Lord Narsimhadeva upon Narsimhadev asking Prahlad for a boon, he says, Prabhu, I'm not a businessman. I didn't come and do this worship and do this and remember you and worship you and think of you and pray to you for me to get some boon. I don't want that. I don't want anything from you except your service. So don't be a businessman with the Lord. Don't go, this is like a very basic level. Ab hum bhakti yog mein aa rahe hain, so we have to be a little bit more mature. That हम लोग प्रार्थना करते हैं बार बार और फिर जब हमारी इच्छा पूरी नहीं होती, then we get upset, right? Then we get upset that this must be wrong. This is not working out. This is that. But if we maintain this nature of a businessman, then the Lord himself also reciprocates like this. That, okay, I'll give you this thing and now I'm finished with you. Just like when you go to a shop, you buy any shirt or pant, you pay your money, you take the goods, and each goes its separate way. So we don't want that with the Lord. We want to have a relationship of love and devotion. One that transcends, one that goes above this material business-like relationship. And our acharyas also say that one should reach for the stars and settle for nothing less, right? Settle for nothing less. That means that when we are approaching a millionaire, a karodpati, then do we ask for 10 rupees or do we ask for $10? No. We want the highest thing. And what is the highest thing? That is pure Krishna Prem or Bhakti, right? Radha Dasyam. That we want to be the servant of the devotees of the Lord. So when we are asking for something from the Lord, there is no harm in asking, but we should ask for the best thing. We should ask for the best thing. Don't just simply settle for cheap material things. ये तो कभी भी आ सकते हैं, right? ये तो कभी भी आ सकते हैं और भगवान ऐसे भी बोलते हैं कि यदि मेरा भक्त पूछता है ना इन चीज़ों के तो मैं उनका छुटकारा करता हूँ. I want to get rid of that kind because I just give him what he wants and he goes away thinking that I have given him everything. But we should pray in this mood that no, Prabhu, I don't want anything else. I don't want anything else but the service of you for your pleasure, for your devotees' pleasure, right? And we'll discuss this verse as we go on today. So before we start our next chapter, is there any questions or any concerns, comments? Sure. हमें क्या? So this is a very nice question. So our scriptures and the example in Bhagavad Gita also is shown by Arjun. He is also fighting, right? He's fighting the war. And Krishna instructs him that you should fight. He's not saying you should go to the forest and become weak. In fact, he rejects that. So what is the appropriate mood that one should have in tolerance? That one should be tolerant, one should be very tolerant in accepting that whatever is happening to him or her is the result of their previous karma. However, one should not be tolerant when someone is against dharma, That's one point. That Arjun is fighting a war of dharma, right? That they have done wrong. They have done completely wrong. And it is a duty of a Kshatriya to defeat adharma, right? That's one thing. Secondly, we also mentioned this in the last class, that one should be tolerant to the point where the other does not look at it as weakness. There is one difference between humility and tolerance and weakness. When the other person perceives this tolerance or humility on you as your weakness, then you can defend. Just like when the Pandavas were attacked, when Draupadi was attacked, so many other things happened, right? Then ultimately one can defend, and one can defend dharma when it is considered that they have become weak. When the demons or the demoniac nature of someone attacks us thinking that we are weak because we are tolerant. So in this regard, the example, of course, of Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata is there. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, so we'll go on. So today we're going to discuss the story of Dhruva Maharaj. And many of you probably already know this story. But again, just like hearing the stories of Prahlad help us to learn and imbibe those lessons within our life, similarly, by hearing the stories of the Bhagavatam of Dhruva Maharaj, devotees like him, then we can learn many lessons. And also we'll try to learn some lessons that maybe you don't know. Even though you might have heard the story, just like you came up with 7 or 8 lessons, but hopefully you have heard some lessons that maybe you didn't think of. So without further ado, let's start with this story. So the story starts that Lord Brahma, right? Lord Brahma, who is the creator of this universe. Lord Brahma has one grandson. He has one son whose name is Swayambhav Manu, who's the first human created. And Manu has 2 sons, one of which is named Uttanapad, right? Uttanapad, and Uttanapad is the king. So Uttanapad had 2 wives, and from each of his wives, he had one son. This is Dhruv, who is our primary character. And does anybody know the name of the other son? Uttama or Uttam. Okay. And does anybody know the names of the queens? Dhruv's mother is Suniti, and Uttam's mother is Suruchi. So the king had 2 queens, and his favorite amongst the 2 queens was Suruchi. And she had a son named Uttam. Now, for Suniti, he was not so fond of her, right? He was not so fond of her. In fact, he even built a separate palace for her to stay in because he did not spend so much time with her. He always used to spend time with Suruchi. And in fact, these names, Suniti and Suruchi, have great meaning also. That Suniti means good activity, good behavior, following rules and regulations. Then she always behaved in this way. But Ruchi means taste, right? That she only followed whatever she liked to do, even if it was not towards the right principles. So Suniti had a son named Dhruv, Suruchi had a son named Uttam. Now these boys, being young 5-year-old boys, they go and they play in the kingdom's courtyard. And one day they go and they're running here and there, and they finally end up in the palace of the king. So because they're little boys, they want to sit on the lap of their father. Jaise ek chota sa bachcha chahta hai. Now, what happens is that Suruchi, you can see in this picture here, Suruchi, she says no. She says no to who? To Dhruva Maharaj. She says no to him. Why? She says, no, only a son born from my womb can sit on the lap of the king. Otherwise, you cannot sit. So since because you are not born from my womb, from my garb, then you cannot sit. So being a small boy, just wanting to sit on the lap of his father, Dhruva Maharaj becomes very upset. And he begins to cry and he begins to get angry. And he says, why, mother, why? And his mother says, if you want to be sitting on the lap of your father, then you must be born from my womb in your next life. And he says, how will I do that? And she says, only the Supreme Lord can arrange that. So Dhruva Maharaj, he becomes angry and leaves. And he goes to his mother crying. And Suniti says, what happened, my dear child? What happened? Why are you crying? And Dhruva Maharaj explains to her what happened. And Suniti says, well, Dhruv, even though you're 5 years old, I have not been able to teach you what your stepmother has taught you in just 1 second. That she's right. That if you want to sit on the lap of your father, because your father is attached to Suruchi and not to me, then you must be born from her womb. And only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, can arrange this. So if you want to be born from her womb, then you will need to pray to him. And how will you do that? Then you dedicate your life to him. So Dhruva Maharaj, taking these instructions very, very seriously, what does he do? He gets up and leaves the kingdom. And he's a prince. He's a prince born in a royal family, just like Prahlada Maharaj. It is described that he's never walked on earth barefoot, because a prince always walks with shoes. He's never not slept on a bed, a very comfortable bed. He's always gotten the most nicest food. So many opulences were there in his childhood. But Dhruva Maharaj, being very firm and dedicated, gives up everything and goes and leaves the kingdom, saying, I will obtain my goal, which is to sit on the lap of my father. So upon Dhruva Maharaj being such a young boy, a 5-year-old boy, right? A 5-year-old boy gives up his kingdom, then the entire world comes to know about this. And what happens? Then Narad Muni appears in front of him. And Narad Muni says, oh, my dear royal child, and he addresses him in this way, that my dear royal child, what are you doing? What are you doing? Then Dhruva Maharaj says, I am going to pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because I want to get a kingdom that is even greater than my father and greater than my grandfather. I want a kingdom to show them who I am and what I can do, right? And Narad Muni says, oh, my dear boy, why are you so offended? Why are you so offended by the words of your mother? She's just saying these things. You should ignore them and go on and do your activities. You're just a young boy. And you should go and play sports, right? You should go and play sports, or you should go and play the games and spend time with your friends like other children of your age do. So in this way, Narad Muni is testing Dhruva Maharaj. And Dhruva Maharaj says, hey, Narad Muni, dekho, I don't know who you are. I have never seen you before. But if you are not coming to help me achieve my goal, then you please get out of the way. Get out of the way. Don't bother me, because my goal is fixed. I am one pointed to achieving that. And if you have come to help me, then I will listen. Otherwise, if you have come to discourage me, then I am not interested. I'm not interested in all of these things. I only want to achieve my goal. Then Narad Muni says, wow, you are such a determined boy. You are such a Kshatriya, because Dhruv is from a royal family. You are such a good Kshatriya that even the sting of your mother's words, the pain that's caused from your mother's words, is making you very fire, making you very dedicated to achieving your goal. Okay, fine. If you want to achieve this goal, then I will give you 2 recommendations. One is that you should go to Madhuvan. Madhuvan. And this is a forest in Vrindavan. A forest in Vrindavan. You should go to Madhuvan where you can perform austerities to please the Lord. And secondly, when you go to this forest, then what is the process? What is the method for which you can attain the Lord? And he gives him one mantra, and many of you know this mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And he says, you chant this mantra with great determination and be fixed in your meditation upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Then you can achieve your goal. And Narad Muni describes to Dhruv that how the Supreme Lord looks. And it's very beautifully described in the Bhagavatam of how the Lord has a beautiful smiling face, that he wears yellow cloth and has a beautiful flower garland. He has the Shrivatsa jewel, the mark on his chest, and the Shamantak jewel on his chest also. That he has beautiful earrings, pearl earrings. He has long hair. He carries a flute. He carries so many other types, the complexion and form of the Lord in a very beautiful way. So when Dhruva Maharaj hears this, he becomes immediately entranced and attracted to the Supreme Lord's beautiful form. And he goes with great determination and great faith. This is Narad Muni giving him the mantra and giving him Diksha. This is Narad Muni accepting Dhruva Maharaj as his disciple and Dhruv accepting Narad Muni as his guru. So he becomes very fixed and he goes to the forest. Remember, he's a prince. He's never slept on the earth. He's never endured any austerity. But being very fixed in his nature, he performs very deep austerities. And what happens? In the first month, the Bhagavatam describes that Dhruva Maharaj on his first month, he's so dedicated that every 3 days, he takes only fruits and berries. Every 3 days, he takes only once in his first month. And he's constantly chanting the names of the Lord. Then in the second month, every 6 days, he takes the trees, the leaves and the twigs from the trees. So he has even given up the fruits and he's only taking the twigs and the leaves. Then in the third month, every 9 days, he gives that up and he takes only just a sip of water. Just a sip of water. And in the fourth month, every 12 days, he gives up even that and he only takes one breath of air. One breath of air. And by the fifth month, he gives up even that. No air. No air. And he's simply meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he stands on one toe. Now you may remember this from our previous class, that who also did this kind of austerity. Of course, they were chanting Lord Brahma's name. But Hiranyakashipu also performed very severe austerities of standing on one toe and meditating for how long? For 60,000 years. Hiranyakashipu meditated on the Lord. Meditated on Lord Brahma. Now, Dhruva Maharaj, he's meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna or Lord Vishnu. And he achieves his goal in just 6 months. In just 6 months. So he's giving up these things month by month. And by the time the 6th month comes around, all of the devtas and devas are very worried. Why? Our acharyas and Srimad Bhagavatam describes that because Dhruva Maharaj is intensely focused on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then the Supreme Lord himself enters within Dhruva Maharaj's heart. And the Supreme Lord, being the heaviest of all, being the support of the entire universe, being the creator of the entire 3 universes, everything is emanating from the Supreme Lord. Then he immediately, even though he has one toe on the ground standing like this, he becomes very heavy because the whole universe is inside his heart. The whole support of the universe is inside his heart. And all the devtas become worried that, they tremble. The earth trembles. That what is happening? what kind of power is Dhruva Maharaj gaining? So the Devtas and Devas, they approach the Supreme Lord and say, Prabhu, please save us, because we cannot even breathe because of this boy. We cannot even sit in our kingdoms because everything is shaking. So the Supreme Lord, he says, don't be worried. I will take care of it. I will take care of it. He is my devotee and I will go now. So the Lord gets on his carrier, on his Vahan, Garud, and he appears in front of Dhruva Maharaj. Now, Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that Dhruva Maharaj is so concentrated, his eyes are closed, he's so concentrated on the Supreme Lord that he does not even notice him coming. And then finally, what does Lord Vishnu do? Lord Narayan, he removes that vision from his heart, removes himself from the heart of Dhruva Maharaj. And then finally, Dhruva Maharaj's meditation is broken. And then he looks and he sees the Lord. And as soon as he sees the Lord, he falls flat to his feet. He falls flat to his feet. He says, Prabhu, you have come and given me darshan. I am so honored and pleased. And he begins trying to offer some prayers to the Lord. But then he is not able to. He's not able to. Why is that? Because he began to think that my dear mother and my guru, Narad Muni, they told me what to do. They told me that I should chant the name, that I should go to the forest, that I should meditate upon the Lord's form while I'm chanting his name. But they didn't tell me what to do when he appears in front of me. So Dhruva Maharaj becomes very confused. And the Lord, being very merciful and understanding the heart of his devotee, then touches him with his conch shell to his head, which is the symbol of knowledge. And upon being touched by the Lord's conch shell, then Dhruva Maharaj begins to offer beautiful and wonderful prayers to the Supreme Lord. And the Lord offers him a boon and says, Dhruv, you have performed these great austerities even at such a young age. And in just 6 months, you have obtained my darshan. No one has obtained my darshan in such a short amount of time. So because of this, because you desired to have a kingdom that is greater than your father and your grandfather, then tathastu, then I will give you this. And what did the Lord give him? The Lord gave him a separate abode. He said, this abode that I am giving you has never been created before, because no one has a kingdom that is greater than this. And this lok, or this abode, is called Dhruva Lok. Now, many of you may know this in English as the pole star or the North Star. We see in the sky that the North Star is always shining the brightest amongst all the stars in the sky. And that is because that is Dhruva Lok given by Lord Narayan. So Dhruv, he receives this boon, and then the Lord leaves. The Lord disappears. And he tells him few final things. That Dhruv, after this, you will go back to your kingdom and you will be crowned king in this earth for 36,000 years, where you will conduct and never forget me. Right? You will never forget me. And upon the completion of this 36,000 years, then you will go to your abode, Dhruva Lok, where you will rule. And that lok is such a beautiful place created by me that even in the destruction of the entire universe, Pralaya, when the destruction happens, of course, after all of the yugas cycle, then your lok will not be touched. So you will remain above that. So Dhruva Maharaj, the Lord leaves and Dhruva Maharaj folds his hands. And then he continues. Now, I would like to ask you all, there is some more aspect of this. There is some more further story of Dhruva Maharaj after this. But I want to ask you, before we talk about that what are the lessons that Dhruva Maharaj is teaching us? And we'll finish here soon. I know the time is running. What are the lessons that we learned from Dhruva Maharaj's story? Anybody can unmute and say it. Then I'll give you the ending of the story. Yes, so determination, just like we learned from Prahlada Maharaj, determination, absolutely. That Dhruva Maharaj, no matter who got in his way, he is completely determined. What else? Let's go quickly because time is running. Full faith. Okay, so this is another lesson also displayed by Dhruva Maharaj. Yes, great. What else? Yes, there is no age. There is absolutely no age. One can be a 5-year-old child like Dhruva Maharaj and obtain the darshan of the Lord. And also, we can get it quickly if we are very dedicated. That the Lord will reciprocate with you. Yeyatam mam prabhadyante tam stateva bhajamyaham. That I reciprocate with my devotee as he reciprocates with me. So Dhruva Maharaj being 100% dedicated toward the Supreme Lord for just 6 months, he gets his darshan. Imagine if we are just dedicated for 6 months and we obtain the darshan of the Supreme Lord. How glorious would that be? Absolutely. What else? Anything else? I want you to think about all the different reasons. Why did Dhruva Maharaj start on this path? What did Dhruva Maharaj hope to obtain from this path? So he wanted to sit on his father's lap. What kind of goal is that? Materialistic goal. Yes. He approached the Lord, our acharyas, and Srimad Bhagavatam also is trying to teach us something with this example. That we are not diminishing the glories of Dhruva Maharaj, that is not the intent. But Bhagavatam is trying to teach us, how should we approach the Lord? And what is the result of approaching the Lord in different ways? So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there are 4 types of people that approach me. So someone who is even materialistic, someone who wants something so simple as to sit in his father's lap, then he too can also approach me. So this gives us great inspiration. But what is the reward that the Lord gives Dhruva? What does he give him? Yes, even more than what he wanted, but he gives him a kingdom, right? He gives him the kingdom that he asked for. So is this kingdom materialistic or spiritual? It's materialistic. So the Lord will grant even your materialistic goals. Krishna says that so many people study the Vedas, so many people worship for materialistic goals, but ultimately I am the provider of all of those too. So he can satisfy one's material desires also. The Lord can satisfy them. But, and now we'll get to the ending of this story of Dhruva Maharaj, that when the Lord departs from him, then Dhruva Maharaj begins to feel very dissatisfied. He feels very sad and he begins to cry and weep. Why? He says, oh my goodness, I have received that most glorious thing that even the yogis and sages meditate for thousands of years for. I've received that in just 6 months. But what did I get in return? I asked for a few broken pieces of rice, a few broken pieces of glass. I had the Supreme Lord's darshan, and instead what happened? I got this kingdom. I asked for these material things which are temporary. And even though I could have received the association of the Lord, the service of the Lord, instead, because of my materialistic desire, then I got this kingdom. So he begins to weep and cry because now the knowledge is within his heart too. Previously, he went with the intent of materialistic goal. And he chanted the name to obtain this materialistic goal. But once the Lord gives his grace and touches him with his conch shell, then all the knowledge of the scriptures come within his heart. And he begins to lament and weep. And he says, I should not make this mistake anymore. I should not make this mistake anymore. So what is Dhruva Maharaj trying to teach us? What is the Bhagavatam trying to teach us? That yes, we can approach the Lord for materialistic goals, but ultimately this will not result in our satisfaction. Our satisfaction lies when we become the servant. Our satisfaction lies when we serve the Lord for His pleasure. That our Srila Rupa Goswami says, Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena Krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttama. That what is real bhakti, what is the topmost bhakti? When we are only looking for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are looking for Krishna anushilanam, that He should be happy, even if that results in not us obtaining our materialistic desires. So one should have this goal in mind. One should have this idea and set in one's heart that, Prabhu, I am not praying for any materialistic goal. I do not want these broken pieces of glass, right? Like when we see a broken piece of glass far away, it looks very shiny and reflects like a diamond. But when we approach it, we find that it is worthless. Similarly, we are going for the diamond, we are going for the stars, that highest goal, which is Krishna Prem. So have that goal fixed and don't let anything come in your way. So this is the lesson of Dhruva Maharaj. We'll end here because of time, and I'm sorry if I ran a little late. If anyone has any question, they can ask. Otherwise, we'll conclude the class here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.